I mean, we got people that's getting ready to retire that's going to try to live off $2,000 to $3,000. Impossible. It's impossible. Because what happens, it comes up here, we spend it. We're $35 trillion in debt. We don't have any money. We're dead broke. And then taxpayers have $2 trillion in credit card debt. In this body, we had better start figuring that out, because we're going to have a run on this city here soon, and there's going to be about 150 million people coming up here saying, where's our damn money that we paid in? I could have put my Social Security money 40 years in tax in the market and probably be worth 8 to 10 million today. But the federal government wasted it.
When the next crisis hits, the elites are planning to freeze the financial system, and they'll replace it with a new system, one not based on the U.S. dollar. When that happens, we'll wake up to a very strange and disturbing new reality.
And for our viewers that are watching today, what might their reality look like that morning? How does this manifest?
First, they'll have gone to bed knowing that a massive financial crisis was underway. But when they wake up, they'll find it has worsened and the contagion has spread worldwide. When they go to withdraw money, their ATM will say, closed temporarily. When they go to sell stocks, their account will say, transaction not available. When they go to their local business, that business will only accept cash if it's open. As citizens realize they're being barred from their money, riots will erupt. They've rigged the financial laws, changed the rules of the game to allow this to happen. The stage is set. They have the levers in place. The lights are positioned. Now someone just needs to flick a switch.
Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, Rakakradash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim, pushing his word across the four corners of the world. Just a quick news update through the spirit, the power, and the vibration of YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI. And as you just saw from these opening videos, and more so aiming towards the second one, James Rickards, who is an American lawyer and investment banker, and he pretty much goes into the ICE 9 situation, which is when the international bankers decide to hit that trigger on that financial reset and starve the masses into a digital dollar control grid. So when this financial freeze hits overnight, like the dollar and all dollar denominated accounts, such as pension funds, bonds, treasuries, of course, bank accounts will plummet overnight. And that vibration alone is going to cause a great world of panicking, like sudden uncontrollable fear, anxiety. And these great and divine catastrophic events are nothing but end-time biblical prophecies of YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI. And that takes me to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 2, verses 9 to 10. And when I looked, behold, an hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And that roll of a book is referring to the Holy Bible, which is also recognized as the best-selling book of all time. And it says, and he spread it before me, and it was written within and without, and there was written therein lamentations, which goes into a deep and a passionate cry of sorrow and grief. And mourning, pretty much the same thing as lamentation. And it says, and woe, which also goes into a cause of sorrow, misery, or misfortune. And all three of these words expresses the dire times that we are currently in. Because when this financial reset be implemented, and when these spoiled, complacent Americans realize that their financial bank accounts are nearly to zero overnight, these people are going to wild out. And the so-called powers that be, they want an order out of chaotic environment. So with that being said, these are crucial events that we should definitely be inspecting. Because Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the WEF, which is the World Economic Forum, and remember, he stated years ago during the C-19 pandemic, how this pandemic represents a rare but narrow window or opportunity to reflect, to reimagine, and reset our world, which is going into this globalist-led NWO. And also to mention at the World Economic Forum back in 2024 that they're going to unleash an era of shock events. Hence these false flags or false narratives, and definitely a global financial freeze. So when I came across this James Rickards video and of him breaking down his ICE 9 scenario, again, which highlights when the elites are intentionally planning to freeze this financial system and the catastrophic events that could happen overnight, through the Spirit, it made me think about this article I had bookmarked within my phone for about 4 years now, which is this article from newstarget.com, and it says, "Countdown to collapse of the petrodollar. America's dollar dominance is coming to a sudden, catastrophic end. Total chaos will follow." And this article came out on March the 17th, 2022. And it says, Project Sandman describes a 100-plus nation agreement that, when triggered, will see those nations simultaneously dump the dollar and abandon the petrodollar status that has allowed the USA to enjoy 50 years of fiat currency counterfeiting and material abundance at the expense of everyone else. When this decision is triggered, the dollar and all dollar-denominated assets will plunge to near zero literally overnight. This means all dollar-denominated bank accounts, bonds, pension funds, and treasuries and other investment vehicles will essentially be worth zero for the simple reason that all banks and markets will freeze operations. This is the James Rickards Ice 9 scenario. Any funds you have in the stock market will be stuck in those markets, and the entire infrastructure of banking and finance will suffer a catastrophic liquidity crisis that will freeze nearly all financial transactions. Credit cards will stop functioning, food stamp systems will go down and stay down, ATMs will not function, wire transfers will be halted, checks won't be honored, and banks will appear to be offline with access through the internet, displaying maintenance messages to panicked users. And from this first opening video of this Alabama senator by the name of Tommy Tuberville, and that video was in February 2024, and he was going into how this whole Social Security system is all a scam, and about 150 million of Americans do not know that their Social Security money is missing. But meanwhile, this oppressive American government have the ability to have these so-called monetary funds and to send billions of dollars to Israel or Ukraine or all other sorts of madness when it comes to their financial mismanagement. So highlighting the point how these complacent American people will start panicking when they do not have the ability to access their financial bank accounts or 401k, their stocks, bonds, treasuries. Like, these people are going to go haywire. And this notion is all supported by end-time biblical prophecies. So YAHAWASHI gave his day ones or his hopeful elect through the gift of prophecy of heavy spiritual indicators or omens of what to be expected within these end times. And that takes me to the book of Luke 21 verses 25 to 26 within the NLT. And there will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and here on earth the nations will be in turmoil. And that's heavy because within 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter within the GNT, which is the Good News translation, it goes into like within these end times, which we are definitely in, how there will be great political turmoil. And within these end times, we are witnessing a great political divide within the so-called United States of America. So again, YAHAWASHI stated, and here on earth, the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring seas and strange tides. So these people are struck with perplexity, which goes into the inability to deal with something or understand something. Like, for example, the signs of our times. Like, these people can feel something shifting within this world, but they cannot spiritually pinpoint it back into the volume of the book. Verse 26, people will be terrified at what they see coming upon the earth, for the powers in the heavens will be shaken. And the powers of the heavens are going into these international bankers of Esau Edom, these higher ups. It's stated within Isaiah the 47th chapter how they should be weary within the multitudes of their counsels. Because first and foremost, they see a great awakening happen amongst our people of those two witnesses, which represents the elect out of the southern kingdom of the nation of Israel, and also the elect out of the northern kingdom of the nation of Israel. And these two main witnesses, they share the testimony of YAHAWASHI. And that third witness can go into these truthers or whistleblowers, who were once a part of these dark secret societies, and now they're coming out to the forefront and spilling the beans of all of their sinister agendas. So again, the point right here is people will be terrified at what they see coming upon the earth. And within the KJV version, it goes into how men's hearts should be filling them for fear. Like people are going to be having heart attacks, having strokes, giving up the spirit, and going back into the spiritual realm. So people will be terrified of what they see coming upon the earth, especially by these draconian measures that YAHAWAH BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI is going to instill upon the minds of these international bankers, especially when they bring this countdown to the collapse of the petrodollar status. But we read within this article right here how credit cards will stop functioning, food stamp systems will go down and stay down, ATMs will not function, wire transfers will be halted, checks won't be honored, and banks will appear to be offline when accessed through the internet, displaying maintenance messages to panicked users. So therefore, it's safe to say that these American panicked users in those times will be associated with perplexity. And to be honest, they're already perplexed. But how much more when they do not have the ability to access their financial accounts? Like, we're going to soon see great levels of civil or social unrest. And again, it's all intentional for the so-called powers that be, so therefore they can implement this order out of chaotic environment. Remember, the problem, the reaction, and the solution. So therefore they can be justified by implementing this digital NWO. And it says, the dollar collapse is a deliberate plan to force the starving masses into a digital dollar control grid. This scenario has been engineered for a deliberate collapse of the dollar fiat currency and an attempted forcing of everyone into a digital dollar system run by the banksters. In the midst of the panic, people will be promised a universal basic income, which is a UBI, and food credits. Food rationing will be strictly enforced, but only if they use the approved digital wallet system run by the very same criminals who spent the last 50 years looting the value of the dollar. Desperate people will comply, which goes into that old saying, how desperate times call for desperate measures. Like within adverse circumstances, these desperate people will feel justified by going to the extremes of accepting this MOTB system, which is the RFID chip. And this is the knockout punch. And we witnessed the same scenario that happened within the C-19 pandemic. And that's by these same people being desperate by complying by taking the jab. So again, how much more the knockout punch? And it says, desperate people will comply and they will sell their souls and their freedom in exchange for a few more meals, even while their futures are obliterated by the MOTB financial system that will forever keep them enslaved and impoverished. So we're going to witness people globally and go into the extreme measures for the sake of so-called survival within this new functional digital paradigm. And that takes me to 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. And let's start at verse 14. And it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. And the word woe goes into like great misery, misfortune, distress, anxiety, or even death. And that's that disturbing reality that's coming to America, aka Babylon the Great, and really around the whole world. For the sword and their destruction draw it nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that's your civil war, which is a war between political factions or regions within the same country. So expect another Civil War 2.0. Verse 16, for there should be sedition among men, and the word sedition goes into like insurrection or inciting rebellion upon lawful authorities. And we are witnessing the buildup to that right now. How all these people are going to social media and complaining about their personal financial situations, complaining about the inflation or the cost of living crisis. And for the majority part, who are they blaming? The so-called 1%, or the ish people, who are really the problem of the world. So we know by default that these people who are going to be tapped into that civil or social unrest, they won't be able to get their hands on the international bankers. And that's because a lot of them are going to be hiding within their space bunkers or underground bunkers. So which political figures will be next in line? It could be these senators or these governors or mayors or these local political authorities. And these irrational people that would be stirring up this social and civil disorder will be looking at these local authorities as an extension of the so-called 1%. So therefore, with that being said, it's going to be great insurrection across the board within the so-called United States of America. And it says, in invading one another, they should not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions should stand in their power. A man should desire to go into a city and should not be able, and these will be the martial law checkpoints, and more so a martial law digital checkpoint, and where the only means you can be able to maneuver within these digital smart cities, you will have to have the Karatma, which is the RFID microchip. And here's the point, verse 18, for because of their pride, the cities should be troubled. The houses should be destroyed, and men should be afraid. A man should have no pity upon his neighbor, but should destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Which again takes me to the title of this article, Countdown to Collapse of the Petrodollar. America's dollar dominance is coming to a sudden catastrophic end. Total chaos will follow. And again, these so-called powers that be, they want an order out of chaotic environment. And as Gerald Celente stated, when people have nothing left to lose and they feel like they lost everything, they lose it. Which means through the Spirit, we're going to see a heavy fulfillment of Matthew 24 verse 12, how the love of many shall wax cold. So when these people do not have the access to their bank accounts, food stamps, or social security money, and not being able to access these ATMs, like again, people are going to go haywire, which goes into like mentally confused or erratic, like very crazy, not functioning properly. And of course, this engineered collapse of this American dollar is definitely going to affect the sincere and true believers of YAHAWASHI, but we have a better promise by YAHAWASHI unlike this world. However, it's stated within Acts 14:22, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith. And through much tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. So all of these dire straits that will soon hit this earth, this is all a part of our integrity test. And these same dire straits have to come into fruition because this is all part of the process of the kingdom being translated from one people to another. So with that, hopefully you all was edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.